the government will repeal Section 377A and decriminalize sex between men.
The repeal of Section 377A of Singapore's Penal Code is a controversial debate that has come up time and time again. And I'm sure many of you have heard of these 3 numbers and 1 letter before. But what exactly is Section 377A of the Penal Code, and how did it come to be? Here's some quick historical background. The origins of Section 377A are rooted heavily in Singapore's British colonial past. Singapore's Penal Code was originally borrowed from the Indian Penal Code, which the British-controlled India started practicing in 1862. But wait, what is the Penal Code? The Penal Code basically defines the law in Singapore, what constitutes a crime, and what is the punishment for any crime. A lot has changed since 1862, but till this day, it is still the primary criminal statute in Singapore. In the original Penal Code, Section 377 states that
whoever voluntarily has carnal intercourse against the order of nature with any man, woman, or animals shall be punished with imprisonment for life, or with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 10 years, and shall also be liable to fine.
But Section 377A only came in later in 1938. Its primary purpose back then was to stamp out prostitution, and male prostitution in particular. At that time, many prominent European men, some of whom were in the civil service and government, were engaging in sexual acts with the male natives of Singapore and Malaya. Sir Thomas Shenton, yes, that Shenton, who was the governor of the Straits Settlement, didn't like that at all. So he introduced Section 377A into the Penal Code. To save his men from embarrassment, he specifically stated that white men were to be given a chance to resign and leave the colony before being brought to court. The natives, however, were not given the same leniency. Then, in 1965, when Singapore gained independence, Section 377A and its mother statute 377 were kept in the Penal Code. So to recap, 377 covered men, women, and animals, but 377A only covered men. In 2003, a man was convicted under Section 377 for having oral sex with a teenage girl, even though the act was consensual. This generated much debate about whether Section 377 was still needed in modern times, which led to a review of the Penal Code by the Ministry of Home Affairs. During the debate, 14 MPs rose to speak on Section 377A. A majority of them called for the law to be retained, to prevent homosexuality from becoming mainstream and weakening key institutions such as marriage. Then Senior Minister of State for Home Affairs Ho Peng Kee justified the retention of 377A.
Singaporeans are still a largely conservative society.
This sparked outrage amongst the public, and there were many calls to repeal 377A. But there were also many calls to retain it. PM Lee directly addressed the issue in a speech, saying that among the conservative Singaporeans, the deep concerns over the moral values of society will remain, and that if they moved on Section 377A, the gay activists will push for more. He reassured the public that the law wouldn't be actively enforced.
But the public debate surrounding the issue has evolved since then.
Fast forward to 2022, 84 years after its enactment,
PM Lee announced that Section 377A of the Penal Code will be repealed.
Singaporeans still have differing views on whether homosexuality is right or wrong, but most people accept that a person's sexual orientation and behavior is a private and personal matter, and that sex between men should not be a criminal offense. I believe this is the right thing to do and something that most Singaporeans will now accept.